Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode
40-something.
43, it might be, of The Mayor and I, with me, Lindsay Khan, and the Right Honourable Nick Buckley.
Soon to be in jail.
Who may be sectioned very shortly by the police. And it's our weekly look at events in the news, what's happening out there, and kind of our thoughts on it, and Nick trying to calm me down a lot of the time. Nick Buckley.
Thank you very much.
And you're up to nearly 17,000 YouTube followers.
On subscribers, yep. So a couple hundred away now from 17,000.
Which is really good. Very well done.
Which is absolutely amazing.
And how's your Twitter looking at the moment?
Getting close to 41,000 now.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. It's quite interesting. I think last week one of the videos that did the best and most interesting was one about the film Soylent Green.
Yes.
Which I was quite surprised at because I didn't know if anybody knew what it was, but it was really an idea, or the idea that it looks as though this government is closing in on old people quite aggressively, and I think quite a few of our viewers, the older ones, were actually quite interested to express it. Yeah. I think they've seen this happening, and they're kind of...
And then someone mentioned Logan's Run.
Yes, I remember Logan's Run. Michael York was in that.
In the film.
I think it was Michael York and Jenny Agutter in that one.
Right, and they made a TV series after it.
Yes,
as well.
they did, yeah. But the film was... In that one, I think if you got to 30, you had to be killed, basically. Yeah. So it was just young people.
And I remember watching that as a kid going, 30, you've lived your life.
Oh yeah, I know.
Then nearly twice that, I'm going, no, I don't want to be killed.
I remember when we went to university, there was a guy in our flat, we were all 18, but there was one guy in there who was 26. Yeah. I'm not joking, we thought he was like
a granddad.
I mean, he was just so old, we couldn't believe it. Looking back on it now, 26. I want to talk a bit today about DEI, which is...
Diversity, equity and inclusion.
And I'm kind of just lumping a bunch of things in here because a lot of this is about ideas or policies or principles that the elite have been pursuing with us, governments have been pursuing, and that are kind of starting to fall apart a bit now. And I think there's more visibility in the general community. Interesting, I saw Greta Thunberg, who has now become a laughing-stock, by the way.
She has.
She was behind a car singing some song or something. She's become an obsessive jihadist.
And anti-Semite.
But I think people looking at it now thinking, why the hell did I support or...
Because she was presented as a little girl. And pure and innocent, and she was just...
And she's
been abused by her parents.
Yeah, she's just a very shrill, frantic, nonsensical idiot now, wandering around, just go... So I think her day is over, basically, as we knew it would be.
So before we get into DEI, let's talk about those three words. So we all know what diversity means.
Yes.
Yeah. We all know what inclusion means.
Yes.
What does equity mean?
I don't know, because whenever I hear equity, I always see that there's a cartoon that's always shown, isn't there? And there's like a fence. Yeah. And there's three children of different heights. And one on one of them, they're all standing on the same thing, and the other one of them, I can't remember. So I could do with some more education on that.
So people get equity and equality mixed up. So equality is basically equality of opportunity. That means we shouldn't be putting barriers in front of people for them to get the opportunity to do what they want to do. They may fail at it because they weren't good enough, because they're incompetent, because they didn't have the qualifications. But we shouldn't stop you trying to be an engineer. We shouldn't stop you trying to be a footballer. That's equality of opportunity. That everyone can have a go, and then the best will go through. Equity is about the equality. It's about the equality of outcome, which means you look at every group in society, men, women, black, white, gay, Muslim, Hindu, disabled, whatever, and you say they're 10% of the society. Therefore, they should be 10% of the MPs. They should be 10% of BBC reporters. They should be 10% of CEOs. And
10% of brickies.
10% of brickies, 10% of rat catchers. So because we talked about sixth form student union activism. That's what this is about. It seems fair.
Yeah.
Well, that seems fair. But to get to that, you've got to, A, discriminate against people, like the Royal Air Force did. We're now rejecting all white pilots. They did that a couple of years ago. Got found guilty in court. It was policy. You've got to start discriminating against people. And you're not based not on merit. And you then, at a certain stage, you're going to have to force people to be a rat catcher. You're going to have to force people to do these things. And when you start forcing people, it all comes down to the barrel of a gun eventually. So you might not want to be a bricklayer. But you know what? We've looked at the quotas. We're now short of mixed race, white, Indian, bearded, quite sarky people to be bricklayers. And you need a job. That's your job.
Yeah.
That's how that will work out. And that's why equity is extremely dangerous, because it ends up with the barrel of a gun. You will do what we tell you to do, because if you don't, that's just not equality, is it?
Yeah, but what it does, which is the thing that I always find the most distasteful, is it doesn't work it on merit. And
it's got nothing to do with merit. It's to do with your identity.
Yeah, and the reason I find that worrying is because they did all this in the Ivy League schools in America, didn't they? They had equity, so they had to have a percentage of black people, a percentage of Asian people, and as a result, a lot of highly gifted, highly intelligent Asians and white people didn't get to the top universities. Now that has got to have an impact on the country.
Of course it does.
If you've got your top universities, academic, where the top physicists, mathematicians, scientists come out of, you need the best people in there. That's what creates the power and the driving force of a country, of its intelligence and everything like that. And by bringing in these rules in America, I think that has had a major impact on the quality of creativity, intelligence, physics, inventions, all that sort of stuff,
of course,
coming out of there. And I think we've done the same in the UK,
well,
and also in Cambridge.
It's the same here, and I've seen it in the local government. We hire people now on identity, and we wonder why nothing works. Wonder why it's all incompetent. It's because half the people working there never should have got the job in the first place. There was a news report last year. A whistleblower from Boeing stated to the press that Boeing's planes are now much more unsafe due to DEI.
Really?
Yeah.
Because the engineers were all...
He says, we're not hiring on merit anymore now, we're hiring on equity. And he says, our planes now are not as safe as they used to be.
Yeah. It's a very scary thing, I think. And I think you're right. The quality and lowering in what we perceive as standards in various businesses, retail, hotels, all that sort of stuff. I think it's changed, and we've seen it specifically with Trump and the head of security, didn't we? Head of security was a woman who used to work at Pepsi, I think, put in charge of security, not a highly experienced ex-security army person or whatever who would have the relevant experience. This is somebody who didn't have the relevant experience,
but was a woman,
and a woman, and Trump got his ears shut off. You know, so
and a few weeks later, there was another report from the Secret Service at a Trump meeting in a hotel, and one of the female Secret Service was found in a room breastfeeding a baby, and had left a post. It's like, you can't make this crap up.
But did you see that little fat woman who was involved in the Trump thing? And she was like, at one point she was hiding at one point, couldn't find the gun at her.
It's comical.
It was, but it isn't comical, is it? Because that's his life we're talking about here.
The only time we don't have DEI, really, is in sports. Nobody wants DEI in sports today. Manchester United may be taking the knee, but they're not trying to recruit more Pakistani footballers, are they? No, they're not.
And it's the opposite in football, because there's far more black players than there are white players, but it's not proportional at all. If you brought DEI into football, you would ruin football, because if you'd have to bring in a lot more white players to replace the black players, and then the quality would drop, and it would just...
So when you have someone arguing for equity, I always go straight to the sports example.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Because it's like, they get it straight. Yeah, I want my team to win.
Yeah.
I want the best in there.
Yeah.
And 4'2" little Japanese football players, aren't that good, are they?
But the whole hypocrisy of this is interesting, isn't it? The hypocrisy is, if you say to somebody, we need DEI in football, they say, oh, it's fine already, we've got lots of black players. But the actual response to that is, yeah, but there's disproportionately.
They're overrepresented.
Yeah, they're overrepresented. It's racist.
Most of them need sacking.
Yeah. But they were like, what? They'll go, what? I don't understand. What do you mean? No, there's too many black people in football.
There's a complete lack of gingers in the Premier League. There's not enough gingers with freckles.
I think Scott McTominay might be a ginger.
Oh, right.
I'm not sure. So thank you very much, and I'm sure our audience thank you as well for that explanation of what equity is. One of the first things that's cropped up this week is, so in the census we've just had, apparently they identified 262,000 transsexuals. Yeah. What is the correct term? I call them trannies, but I don't know if you're allowed to do that anymore.
No, it's no hate crime.
Is it that hate crime?
So now it's, I would imagine...
Could somebody report me to the, what is it called?
I would imagine it's transgender. But transgender is an umbrella term. It includes trannies, it includes a dozen things under trans.
Well, apparently they're now saying that they think that number's far too high, because apparently the way the census was phrased, and bear in mind we have a lot of immigrant communities who aren't great at English, it was confusing, so they think a lot of people who don't have a great command of English tick the tranny box when they weren't actually trannies, basically. So the number is apparently a lot less than 262,000, which is tiny anyway, considering all the publicity that trannies get in the country. That's one of the first things. The second thing that I'm really pleased to see is happening, and this isn't DEI, but it's all to do with the elite kind of agenda. There's been a 70% drop in Germany of sales of electric cars. So we're all going to be electric cars in the year 2025, I don't know, 2030.
Yeah, Labour's bought it for me.
Nobody's buying electric cars anymore. And there's a reason for it, because they're crap. Second-hand electric cars values in this country have halved in the last 2 years as well. So not only is nobody buying new ones, nobody wants to buy second ones either. And it's just the market is actually turning against these crazy ideas, and I think that's what's interesting about this. All these crazy equality, climate change ideas, at the end of the day, the market decides, or it starts to decide. There's only so far they can be subsidised.
But the reason why they created all these vehicles is because of subsidies.
Yes.
Government told them we want more electric cars. Yeah. So normally those electric cars would have been built at a much slower pace to make sure customers wanted them, to make sure they were going to be used the way they wanted to use them. It would have been market driven.
And would have been developed in line with the way people were using them to encourage more people to use them.
Exactly, but it wasn't. It was all subsidies, and these companies went, we'll take your money and build stuff.
So we're still getting this climate change crap, although I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, I think people are less focused on the climate change thing now than they have been. I think there's a shift again.
Yeah, there is.
The media haven't got there. There's a guy called Justin Rowlatt on the BBC. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's the environment. So he recently claimed that climate change is turbocharging the problems in Somalia, apparently. However, apparently Somalia's temperatures haven't changed in 100 years. Neither has their rainfall levels. But despite that, Justin Rowlatt, who's a BBC reporter, is claiming that the climate is turbocharging the problems in Somalia. So they keep perpetuating this crap, even though the data now doesn't support it. There was also recently in the New York Times, they tried to do a thing showing how much temperature is rocketing. They did a graph over the last 10,000 years. It's just like going, if you do it over time, it's actually going down temperature. Really dropping quite dramatically. So their kind of little study going that way.
Every prediction for the green agenda gloom has always turned out to be false.
Yes.
Every single prediction.
Yeah. There was actually, I was going to note it today, but I can remember it. There was a video taken in the 70s, a woman on the news in America saying, if we don't take action in the next 10 years, society will end. There's the same guy saying it this year. If we don't take action in the next 10 years, society will end.
Yeah.
Now, there's three kind of poster boys, or there were three poster boys for the climate change agenda. One of them is polar bears. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Polar bears, they're dying out. It's a result of climate change. There was a picture of one polar bear on a small cube of ice floating out into the last polar bear. Have you heard anything about polar bears recently?
No, that stopped 20 years ago once the numbers exploded.
Yes. So there were 12,000 polar bears in the 1960s. There's now 26,000. So the polar bear thing, climate change killing it, it's absolute bollocks. Yep. It's been shown to be bollocks, basically. And nobody talks about it anymore. Yep. Do you remember the coral reefs in the Great Barrier Reef?
Oh, yep.
So that was big news.
The great bleaching.
The great bleaching. The coral is dying out.
Yep. It's all rejuvenated.
They've recorded this year the highest ever coverage of coral since records began, basically. So that's why you don't hear about the coral reefs anymore.
It's because we know nothing.
we
don't know anything. When it comes to this planet, we really know nothing.
We don't, and we've been on it a speck of time as well.
And we think, it's changed over the last 3 weeks. Yeah, but it's a couple of billion years old.
The Pacific Islands, you remember that one?
Yeah, all going to sink.
They're all going to sink. They're all being covered underwater.
Yeah.
So they've just released a survey. The Pacific Islands have actually increased in size in the last 10 years. But all these doom mongers, what's that American guy who's always going on about it? Al Gore. You remember, what was it called, that thing?
Inconvenient Truth.
The Inconvenient Truth. Yeah. He discusses all these things in his film, The Inconvenient Truth. Doesn't talk about them anymore now because it's just an absolute bloody nonsense, basically. That's happened. However, despite that, the Grangemouth oil refinery is going to close. They're closing that. They've just closed the Whitehaven coal mine, which was going to be opened under the Tories. They blocked that now. That isn't happening as well. So despite all this evidence that climate change, whilst climate change may exist, it's certainly not man created by man.
And now we're going to have to buy it all.
Yes, we're going to have to buy it all.
It's not like we're not going to use it. We're going to have to buy it off our enemies now. Russia, the Middle East, all these unstable places where we've got it under our feet.
Well, Tata.
Yeah, steel.
So they've just been given 500 million by the UK government. Are you aware of that? So, but they're closing down their steel plant in Newport?
Port Talbot.
They've closed down in Port Talbot. But the news this week is they're opening a new blast furnace in India.
Of course they are, because there's no regulations. And guess who's going to buy this steel?
We are.
Yes. And then we're going to ship it halfway across the world. All the jobs will be in India. All the profits and tax goes to India. And then we'll waste more diesel getting it to come here.
Yes.
And it's like, well, couldn't we have just had it here?
Yeah.
And we've got to be really careful with steel because it's national security. We need steel. If there's a war, we're going to build planes and tanks and stuff like that. We need to be able to make our own steel. If not, we're in big trouble.
Yeah. So and I suspect some of that 500 million will find its way back into India to help fund
all of it will.
COVID.
And the Welsh government need punishing for this because it's a Welsh Labour government who are banging on about the environment all the time. So if you live in Wales and you've lost your job, it's Welsh Labour you need to hold accountable.
Well, the Welsh seem insane, don't they? And their latest proposal, which I put under this DEI thing, their latest proposal, apart from giving 500 million to Tata to spend in, they're now proposing tax breaks for people to stay in Wales. You know, Welsh people, Welsh speakers, to stay in Wales, basically. And I was reading this, I was thinking, hang on a minute. The Labour Party is increasing taxes, changing things. We're having a mass exodus now of rich people out of this country, aren't we? But the Welsh government are giving people tax breaks to stay in Wales. Why is nobody giving the wealth creators, the people who add value, who employ people, why are they not giving them tax breaks to stay in England?
Because they're evil. Because they're seen as evil. They're the ones who won't pay their fair share of tax, therefore we need to punish them. Labour did this in the 70s, the big brain drain, all the money left and we were poor. The first thing I'd like to ask the Welsh government is, don't you realise the reason why people are leaving is because you've made Wales a shithole and nobody wants to live here anymore now.
Yeah.
If you want to make people stay in Wales and live in Wales, change what you're doing, change your policies. Don't bribe people to stay here. Make it a better country to live in.
Yeah.
But they won't, so therefore they'll try to bribe them. Another conversation the Welsh need to have is about their language. I'm going to upset the Welsh now. No hate mail, please.
Do we have Welsh listeners?
I'm sure we do. But the Welsh language is a lovely language. It's ancient, stuff like that, but it's useless. So children in Wales spend far too much time learning a dead language called Welsh when they could be learning physics, chemistry and lots of other things. So we're already putting Welsh children at a handicap compared to other children across the UK by making them learn a dead language. And I'm sure it's a beautiful language. I'm sure they've got connections
it's
to it.
It's rather harsh language, actually. There's far too many consonants in it.
Right. But if they wanted to improve the country going forward, that was something. I remember speaking to a guy from the Faroe Islands once, which is owned by Denmark. And he explained this to me. Because he said, born on the Faroe Islands, he speaks whatever language is on Faroe.
Yeah.
It's next to Greenland, so they learn Greenland language. They're all owned by Denmark, so he speaks Danish. And then all schools in the secondary school teach German. He was fluent in the full, and now he's taught himself English. And he went, that's what sounds great, Nick, he said, but do you know how much education I missed learning languages? That I didn't do history, I didn't do physics, I didn't do this, really? I didn't do that. Yeah. So great, you can speak a lot of languages, but in the modern world where we're trying to upskill children, speaking a language from Greenland and speaking a language of the Faroe Islands, where they all speak English anyway, is same with Wales. For me, and it's not for me to tell them this, they need to have a conversation with themselves in Wales about, are we handicapping our children?
Yeah, they'll probably have that conversation in Welsh. Well, actually, I watched a programme about this once, or listened to a programme about this once, about the Welsh language. It was dying out. It was dying out in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
And they changed the legislation to bring it back. And they actually changed the legislation so that all legal documents had to be done in Welsh. So people had to learn Welsh, basically. So they actually dragged it back into being again. And now in North Wales, most people do speak Welsh, actually. Even though I know it's a dying language, lots of people, because whenever I go in a pub we've got a place in Wales. Yeah. Whenever I go in the pub there, they all start speaking Welsh.
Well, it's because they're talking about you.
Yeah, I kind of guess that. Yeah, they're all looking at me.
Here comes that rich English guy again, spitting his beer.
But I'll tell you something, it's interesting, that thing about trying to keep people in Wales. One thing they've done in Wales is they have increased the rates for second home. Have you heard about this? They're doing it now. They're not just doing it now in Wales, they're now doing it in Cornwall as well.
Yeah.
All that's happened as a result of that is there are hundreds of houses for sale and nobody's buying them. So the people, because quite a few people had a second home in Wales that didn't cost them very much, because the Welsh didn't want to buy them years ago and still don't really want to buy them. So they bought a relatively cheap house and they would go there at the weekend, they would spend money in the local community, they'd go to the local pubs, as I do when I'm in Wales, go to the local restaurants, spend money, employ local builders when they were getting work done. Now, because of the rates, they can't afford to stay there, so they're selling up basically. Yeah. And all these houses are coming on the market, and quite a few Welsh seaside towns have reported a drop in their earnings. Their tourist earnings. Yeah, of course. So they're by adopting these policies, they're actually reducing the level of revenue, tourist revenue they're getting. It seems insanity, that, doesn't it?
It does. As Mallorca's just done the same thing. Mallorca has just reported half the restaurants going bankrupt.
Really?
Right? Just had a summer of demonstrations. Tourists go home. And you wonder why tourists didn't come. Yeah. In Wales, all those properties may be empty at the moment, but over time, those owners will keep lowering the prices to sell them. Yes. And it'll get to a stage where maybe local people can afford to buy them then. Yeah. So that's the housing problem a bit solved there, but it's not good for the economy. If you base your economy around tourism, then that's not clever. Yeah. But Welsh Labour haven't got a clue. Welsh Labour are killing Wales. Yeah. Yeah. It generates.
Well, that guy, what was he called? The Welsh Premier. He was an awful man. He's just recently retired.
The white guy.
Yeah. And then there was a crazy black guy.
Yeah, he lasted 2 months or something. Yeah, he was a DII.
He was strange.
Yeah.
He was weird.
Yeah. He got a tick in the box. He got it because he was black.
Yeah. He was the kind of kid you'd beat up at school. Do you remember those times?
I never beat any kid. I used to stop kids being beat up at school.
I think you might have been the one who was beaten up at school.
I may have been,
I can imagine. You know, the ones that like slightly strange ones who kind of talk a bit too fast, and you know, in the chess club. I was in the chess club actually, thinking about it. Yeah, and
chess. We can't afford chess.
And
my school.
Well, you're like Angela Rayner, working class. You didn't. Yeah, you didn't have chess, did you?
I stood outside that room waiting for someone to buy me a dress.
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of these kids that we used to beat up at school who are now in senior positions of power, aren't they?
I don't know about. I get the point you're making, but I don't know about. But I get your point that
I didn't used to beat people up at school.
Some of the weird ones, yes. And why have they moved on so quickly? It's because they realised DAI works for them.
Yes.
So they jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Same with the First Minister in Wales before he got kicked out.
Yeah.
Useless Humza, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
The black guy in Wales were talking about Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
All these people got the jobs because of their colour.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting point, isn't it? Those kind of outsiders, those loners at school who nobody really talked to. People like the guy who ended up as the First Minister of Wales, he normally would just be sitting on a bus on his own, wouldn't he? In a kind of brown overcoat, going somewhere, you know, and he'd have a job maybe at B&Q, and nobody really would talk to him. But they've actually somehow managed to leapfrog that and become the people who are running our countries.
Because he's black. So all the people around him are going, well, it'd be great for Wales if we had a black politician, becomes a black politician. We need to recruit him to maybe take over one day. And then, you know, there's a vacancy. Oh, we've got a black leader in our country. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Until he gets tested. And when he got tested, he fell apart. Same with useless Hamza.
Hamza useless. Yeah.
When he got tested, fell apart. Rishi Sunak got tested. Fell apart.
I think Rishi Sunak was relatively bright and personable, though. Yusuf wasn't. Hamza Yusuf wasn't personable.
Different degrees of how crap they are. But Rishi Sunak got the job because he was brown.
I think he's quite bright.
He's very bright.
Yeah.
He's very bright. Just because you get it because you're coloured don't mean you're stupid.
Yeah. No, I mean, David Lammy, I think, may be a DEI appointment because he's just so stupid. I can't see how the hell he got there otherwise, basically. Just finishing off on this section on DEI, there are some negatives in here as well. Apparently there's a schoolboy in a secondary school in England who's just been allowed to identify as a wolf.
I saw that, yeah.
So I didn't read the detail of that story, but I just kind of read it. It was in a paper somewhere, so I did read it. Yeah. So what does that mean? They're allowing him to come in and howl, or what?
Trans species is being recognised now. Trans species.
Is a trans species the same as a furry? Or is a furry something else? I've seen this expression, a furry.
Different.
I don't know why I'm expecting you to be an expert on perversions, but somehow it's just...
So, furries is a sexual kink. So you get dressed up as a big fluffy dog and, you know, you own a man.
I'm worried that you know this.
Well, you know, I've got to do research. and it's a sexual kink.
What's in that wardrobe? In that corner?
Trans species is you pretending you actually know, you feel you're the wolf. You feel, there's other people talking about it as well. We've already had some woman who thinks she's, transracial.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Yes.
There's a guy who took government to court. I don't think it was this country or was it Germany. He took his government to court because he was trans age. He was technically 61, but he had a really fit body, and he wanted to identify as 32.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yeah.
Yes,
So the more we discuss poor mental health... Did
you try and get his passport changed?
Yeah.
To choose Oh, I see. Yeah.
The more we discuss poor mental health, the more we allow sick people to pretend. The more we allow sick people to live in unreality, the more of this we'll have. And it's a scale. So now we've got trans species. The next one after this, all I can think of is trans planet. You feel like you're an alien, but there isn't any stopping point to these broken people.
Yeah.
And we treat them as a joke. And I understand why. Some of it's funny. But when you look beneath that, it's a broken person who's in pain.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they're just a pure narcissist having a laugh and a joke.
Yeah.
But if they're in pain, I mean, some people who have got body dysmorphia, who were the original trans people, you know, they've got severe mental health issues.
Yeah.
But not the pervert who puts a dress on, red lipstick and call me Beryl.
Yeah.
He's just a pervert wanting to masturbate somewhere.
Yeah.
But some of these people are really suffering, and you don't tell an anorexic, do you know what, Debbie? You really are fat.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that to an anorexic because you know it's damaging them more. If you meet someone who says, I'm Napoleon, you would never say, you're Napoleon, start taking orders from him. But when it comes to this LGBT nonsense, we validate their unreality, and it's damaging them.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering now whether if somebody comes along and says, I'm Napoleon, people say, oh yes you are. We've actually reached a stage in some places, but if somebody in a public sector job came in and said, I'm Napoleon, you could imagine somebody saying, oh right, okay, I'll put you down as Napoleon. I'm
sure that might happen. I just want to be there that day when two people think they're Napoleon.
There could be a fight breaking out.
I think there will be.
The bit that thing about the boy identifying as a wolf, which is obviously just absolute nonsense. How did that conversation happen at the school? How did it go from the point where
parents would have come in and said,
"Oh, you think his parents brought?
Absolutely.
Oh, right. Okay.
My child's a bit special. He thinks he's a wolf. He'd like this and that, and they're going, well, we've got to be inclusive. But there's nothing wrong in that child.
Just for the viewers at home, Nick hasn't actually got any shoes on. He looks like he could have, you know when you see a werewolf coming back?
Yes. And they've ruined the shoes.
The shoes are ripped off. Yeah. It's like, he may after this go running out into the night.
Yeah. We need to remember that children have imaginary play.
Yeah.
My granddaughter, when I play with her and see and stuff like that, sometimes she's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And she wants to be a dinosaur. We don't go to school and say, right, school, you need to start calling her T-Rex.
Yeah.
And you know, you've got to pass her stuff now very close to her because she's only got small T-Rex arm. She can't lean forward. We don't do that. She's a dinosaur for a day.
And that's exactly what happened with gender, isn't it? You know, boys when they're young will sometimes. There's pictures of my sons dressed in jewellery and things like that when they went round to their grandmothers, you know, messed around or whatever. We didn't suddenly say, oh, he's a girl, she's a girl, you know, she's always wanted to be, you know, it's a moment, a transitory moment in their lives where they're choosing to do that or messing around.
They're playing,
but it's almost like they jump on it, don't they? It's like, oh, you're a wolf, you wanted to be, so you think the parents actually went in and said
I would say parents. I would absolutely say parents went in and did that.
I mean, it's bad enough that the parents go in. What's even worse is the fact that the school actually then even bothers to take it seriously.
You would have to be a brave school not to. And don't forget, all these heads, many of these teachers believe in all this crap. You'd have to be brave not to say, oh, okay, we'll buy a leash for her.
I wonder if kids are actually learning anything at school these days.
I doubt it.
I was at a function on Friday, and a colleague of mine, his son was there, and
did he say, "I've seen you on YouTube"? No, right.
I've not had any recognition of this. I've not had any phone calls from people I know saying, but somebody said to the boy, which school do you go to? And he said, oh, I'm homeschooled. It's only a little kid. And 20 years ago, if somebody said, oh, I'm homeschooled, I said, oh, that's a shame, homeschooled. I actually thought, I don't blame you. I think if my kids were young now, I'd probably homeschool them or trying to get them homeschooled. I wouldn't want them to go in and have all that shit that they're getting now, basically. You know, schools where kids can identify as wolves, where you tell everybody. And I know, because I know this guy, he told me a story, I don't know if I told you, where his son made a comment about somebody who was pretending to be a tranny, and he was hauled up. There was a letter sent home, whatever. And he said, "What?" He said, "What do I do, Lindsay?" And I said, "You write back and say this is an absolute bloody nonsense. Yeah. It's outrageous. I demand to come and see the head." Yeah. Anyway, we were all run over basically. But they were expecting the kid to make an apology because he said something like, He said it was even something like, "Are you a boy or a girl?" It was just something like that, like innocuous, whatever. Next minute, he's hauled up in front of the headmistress and letters sent to the home. So,
hence why that teacher and the head teacher went, identify as a wolf then.
Yeah.
Because I know where this is going down and I'm not going to lose my job over this.
So I think if my kids were coming home and saying this stuff to someone, I'd say, right, you're out of there. Yeah. Or I'll put you in a private school, basically.
Just as bad?
Well, some are, but some aren't.
Yeah. So a lot of the private schools, they were doing this before the state schools were.
Just one last thing on the DEI, which is about reparations. So this is quite interesting. So they're looking for a new Secretary General for the Commonwealth. I don't know if you're aware of that. No. I don't know if you've applied. All 3 candidates who've applied have previously backed reparations. Yeah. So we're going to put the fox in charge of the hen house here, basically. We're going to have somebody in charge of the Commonwealth who will be saying reparations need to be paid to all these countries from presumably Britain.
Yeah. I used to be a big supporter of the Commonwealth. I felt an attachment to it because it was post-Empire and it's a friendly club and that.
I'm a child of the Commonwealth. I'm a child of the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
That's what else for Trinidad.
I've changed my mind on that now. If I became Prime Minister now, we would be leaving the Commonwealth. The King can still be head of the Commonwealth, but the UK wouldn't be part of the Commonwealth. I'd pull out of it completely. It's a complete waste of time. I don't see any benefits for us in it at all. I've got no time for the Commonwealth now. I'd pull us out.
There we go.
And I would blame them for it. I would say to them, we're pulling out of the Commonwealth because it's not fair that you have an ex-colonial master still pretending to rule your country through something called the Commonwealth. And we respect you that much that we're now going to pull out of this now and leave you all to it because we feel you do a better job without this ex-colonial racist master being involved.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Sorry, but what was I may have misunderstood. What's your rationale for us not being part of it?
It adds no value,
because
no benefit.
Things like reparations and stuff coming.
Well, that's part of it, but it adds no value, no benefits to the UK whatsoever. And half those countries don't like us anyway.
There you go. We need to get all your manifesto points down somewhere, don't we? Just in case something happens dramatic and there's an opportunity. I want to move on to a section now that I've called elite bullshit because I'm starting to see
elite bullshit.
I'm starting to see things now, and I look at it and I think this is just elite bullshit. This is a world that has nothing to do with me, that we are constantly having thrust in our faces, and the more I see it now, the more I'm just thinking, this is just bullshit. So an example was in the Telegraph this week, and it was somebody called Alexa Chung. Have you heard of her?
I think it rings a bell.
I don't know if she's a model or a business person or whatever.
I think I don't know. She's not a model. I wouldn't know why.
If any of our listeners could tell us who the hell Alexa Chung is. So it was a picture of this woman, Alexa Chung, in an elite section of the paper, wearing a jumper and a pair of jeans. And the headline was, I wear the same jeans every day. So this is the message. You know, believe it or not, Nick, this woman sometimes wears the same jeans every day. She's gloriously fantastic and whatever, but sometimes she wears the same jeans. That was the headline.
I'm just like you. I can relate to you because I'm just like you. That's what this is.
But it's a confession from a woman who, I don't know who the hell this is, that I wear the same jeans. And that's the headline on the article. I wear this. And I thought, what the... Everybody wears the same jeans every day. It's not a fantastical thing to wear the same pair of trousers or the same pair of jeans for 2 days in a row, is it? But that's what she does.
Because she can relate to the common man or woman. Jeans is really interesting. Because the reason why we wear jeans in this country, I mean, you've got jeans. Are they jeans?
They are jeans.
You've got jeans on now.
Have you not seen jeans before?
Yes. Yeah. Just not really expensive ones like that.
You've just got no shoes on. He's just come back from his rampaging werewolf.
So jeans are the clothes worn by farm workers. Cowboys, farm workers,
correct.
Tough, demon, they would last. And because people then, rich people who weren't working on farms, wanted to signal they were like the working class, that's how we started getting jeans coming into the fashion, because it was a way of wearing something that might now cost £1,500, made by Armani, but it gives a signal that, look at me, I wear the same things as the farm workers. It's again, it's a different version of this elite bullshit of why people wear jeans now.
Yeah.
It's the signal that I'm a common man.
But to be honest though, jeans are comfortable. I find them quite. You don't find them comfortable? Do you prefer trousers?
No, I'm just saying that's why jeans took off.
Yeah. Because it was,
jeans might be comfortable now because all sorts of things we're doing.
Oh, but they might not have been then.
But decades and decades and decades ago, it was all about, look at me, I'm like the working class, you know, I'm like a cowhand, I'm like this, I'm like that. So that was...
And that's now ended up with Alexa Chung telling us that she sometimes wears her jeans for more than one day in a row.
And how much are her jeans?
I didn't actually go beyond the headline, Nick, because I thought I'm not satisfying Alexa Chung, whoever the frick she is, by going beyond the headline to read about her. Basically, the very fact that she's prepared to say to the interviewer, "I sometimes wear jeans more than once," to me tells me everything I need to know about her. Talking about two other pompous elite pricks, Emma Thompson and Gary Lineker.
They're two good uns.
So they've just signed a letter along with a number of other people like Sadiq Khan, your friend of mine, supporting the phasing out of fossil fuels. Now, Emma Thompson is very well known for flying
around the world,
but specifically flying from America to London to take part in an Extinction Rebellion march. Yeah. Gary Lineker has admitted that he spends all his time flying around the world doing all these fantastic things, but they are pompous enough to sign a letter calling for the phasing out of fossil fuels. And again, this is the world they live in, isn't it? I don't know who they think they're talking to or who they're sending the message to, but it isn't to you and me, is it? It isn't to our listeners. They are signing... Who are they signing this letter for?
They're signing it for all the people who think they're amazing.
Yeah.
So here's a signature. I can sign this letter. It has no impact on me. Because we know fossil fuels aren't ending. I can still... They're not signing a letter saying, I refuse to fly now. That, I would actually go, well, do you know what? You're now putting, you've got skin in the game now. Well done you. You believe in it that much. You ain't doing that.
Yeah.
They're saying we need to get rid of fossil fuels. They're just hypocrites, and this is pure virtue signalling.
I walked in to the living room and my wife was watching, I can't mention her name, she was watching something on TV and I looked at the screen for a minute to watch it and there was, what's she called? She's married to Tom Cruise, very tall Australian woman. Nicole Kidman. Yeah. Nicole Kidman was on the screen. Now she must be well into her 50s now.
Oh yeah.
Her face was totally frozen.
Yeah, she's had that much Botox.
Yeah, her face was totally frozen. So she didn't look like a normal human being.
Yeah. She
was talking with an obviously contrived English accent. Yeah. So you just look. So if you just, this is what's interesting to me because you realise how much you're indoctrinated with the bullshit until sometimes you see things completely out of context. You don't see it in the you walk in and you see something, don't you? Like so if you just didn't know who she was, you'd think, what the frick? You know, because she did look almost doll-like, horrific. She was talking. So you walk in, if you didn't know who she was, you'd never seen her before, you'd think, what the frick? Is that some sort of film about robots or something like that? So she was talking in this English accent, and then she was the person she was talking to was a very plain-looking English girl, not a great actress, acting really badly basically, and she was talking to, and so I walked in and I was watching it, and Anna was watching this thing. I was like, what is going on here? Because there's no dynamic, there's no chemistry, there's no visual attractiveness here. You've got a freaky looking...
There's no facial expressions.
No facial expressions. The English girl, she was quite young. She doesn't appear to have any kind of charisma or whatever. What the frick is going on here? And I said, what is this programme called? And it's called The Perfect Couple. It's on Netflix. And I don't know if you have Netflix or watch Netflix. It was called The Perfect Couple. And I said, who... I didn't want to spoil it for my wife. I won't mention her name. But I said, who? I said, Nicole Kidman looks absolutely dreadful. Yeah, she said so. Anna was saying, she had so much Botox or whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I said, but who the hell's that woman? She's just a dreadful actress, whatever. Oh, that's Bono's daughter. You know,
well, we know
and I thought, here we go.
No,
this is it, isn't it? This is it. This is the bollocks that we are paying for, and we have to stomach, isn't it? Nicole Kidman, who is a freak of nature now, you know, is only on television because she's been married to Tom Cruise or whatever, still there. And then the person who's playing the protagonist happens to be the daughter of Bono, basically. Of course, she didn't get there, neither of them got there with any kind of merit or skill or whatever, but they feed it to us, don't they? Yeah. And they sit there, the elite, don't they, watching this saying, this is fantastic, isn't it? Look at Nicole Kidman. Oh, Bono's daughter. Isn't she a fabulous actress? It's marvellous that Bono's daughter's doing so well, you know, sort of thing. But it's fed to us all the time, isn't it? And we sit there taking this crap day after day, after week, month after month, year after year, don't we? It's just outrageous, basically. Really? And the elite are sitting there thinking, this is wonderful, aren't they?
They are, but those programmes are made for them. So let them watch them. Yeah,
but we have to watch it.
Oh,
I pay my Netflix.
Yeah, but there's lots of stuff on Netflix I wouldn't watch. I still pay for Netflix. Let them watch it.
But they exist in this book. Anna, what's she called? Alexa Chung, Emma Thompson, Gary Lineker, Nicole Kidman, Bono's daughter. Yeah. They're all in this little group, aren't they? All congratulating each other, slapping each other on the back as to how fantastic they are. Yeah. And we have to watch. I know we don't have to watch. Yeah. But we have to watch, don't we? It's just, and I just thought this is just ridiculous, basically.
They have different lives to us.
Yes.
They don't have the same concerns we have. They've got that much money that the deterioration of the country hasn't affected them yet. The crime wave hasn't affected them yet. All these things haven't. All they see isn't everything going well?
Yeah.
I get paid a fortune. I fly around the world.
Yeah.
I get, I've got lots of foreign aid, and I've got this and I've got that. I don't understand why people are complaining.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, my son is travelling around America at the moment. So he flew over on Saturday. Was it Saturday? He flew over on Saturday. So he was in New York on Sunday. And at one point, I think Trump came past him and then he came to a section and he was sending some videos. He said, this area is closed off here. There's something happening. A car pulled up, big car, loads of bodyguards around or whatever. Anne Hathaway got out. She's an actress. Have you heard of her?
Yeah.
And I was watching. There was loads of people out, but she kind of just, there was a path cleared for her. She went through and walked down an empty area. It was only empty because they'd put fencing all around it, and walked into what looked like a cinema or something like that, presumably for a screening or whatever. Yeah. And I thought, these people just don't see life for what it is, do they? Everything smells nice, looks nice, perfect, whatever it might be. They are, once these very average people who manage to get into these positions get there, they live in a different world, don't they?
They do. And Americans have always treated celebrities like that. Because she's a celebrity, she's a well-known actress. And you're right, she's probably going to a premiere of a new film or something.
Yeah.
But that's how they're treated. I mean, we treat them to a certain extent a little bit like that over here, not as much. But
Yeah. Just going back to Britain, there was an interesting stat about A&E waiting times. On the one hand, you've got Anne Hathaway, and I'm sure Nicole Kidman doesn't have to wait when she goes in for a Botox injections. In 2000, guess how many people would have been ahead of you in the queue when you went into A&E?
No idea.
39 people.
Right.
In 2024, guess how many people you got ahead of you?
More.
Correct. Any idea how many more?
Double?
More.
Triple?
Nearly 100 people.
100, right.
So now, this is palpable, isn't it? I don't know if you've been to AE recently, but if you go into AE, you have to wait 8-9 hours basically. And that's because there's 100 people ahead of you. That's how broken our NHS is.
And do you know why there's 100 people ahead of you? Because most of them, lots of them will be immigrants and haven't got doctors. So rock up at A&E. Because for them it's like, well, I'll get free healthcare, just rock up at A&E, I don't mind waiting 7 hours. So a lot of those people in the line should be at their doctors, but the illegal ones can't register because they're illegal, and the other ones, they just don't know to register with a doctor. You mentioned that 9 people of working age can't work at the moment.
of those 9 people, 4.3 million can't work because of ill health. That number's increased by nearly 1 million since lockdown, basically. And we're talking about tax. That's believed to have cost us around 5 billion in tax. Now, 5 billion in tax could keep the little old pensioners going for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Basically. So this this COVID and what's happened, lockdown, this focus on benefits and ill health is costing us billions, basically.
And most of it is a fraud. Yeah. Most of these people aren't ill.
Yeah.
They may think they're ill. They may have anxiety, but anxiety is not a disease.
Yeah.
But if you pay people to do nothing, people will do nothing.
People will do nothing. What I mentioned about the NHS a minute ago, by the way, it's expected to cause 14,000 additional deaths this year. So we'll have 14,000.
Because people can't get seen quick enough.
Can't get seen. A lot of people go. I remember once being in A&E and there was a little girl there with a really bad injury on her eye. I was waiting there. Eventually, her parents just said, "Let's go." They just got up and left. They couldn't be bothered, basically.
And most time at A&E, what they say to you is, "Go see your doctor."
Yeah.
And you've waited 9 hours. Yeah. Go see your doctor.
Correct. Just about lazy Britain, one positive thing is Amazon has ordered its staff to go back to work 5 days a week, so no more working from home.
I'm surprised they've not already done that.
Yeah, a lot of the bigger companies are now doing that now, getting people to go back.
So they must be the admin people, the manager people.
Yeah, the people who can, So, but I think Elon Musk has said it, I agree. I think it's immoral that you expect people to work in the factory. They've got to be in there 5 days a week doing it, but the people in the office can go and work from home. I think it's unfair and immoral to do that, and Elon Musk says that. Elon Musk doesn't let any of these guys.
But the argument would be we do different jobs. But I would want everybody working back in the office because it increases productivity.
I agree. Finally, it's something I read and I thought it was quite interesting. I just wondered if you would agree that this is the process, and it's how to destroy a nation in 5 easy steps. So number 1 is, I don't know if you agree this is number 1 or whether this sequence is correct or about timing. Undermine the religion. Number 2, deny there is anything worth celebrating in your history. Number 3, open your borders to people of different religions and cultures.
Yep.
Number 4, introduce selective governing, hammer the lower class. And finally, make acceptance of the new ideology mandatory for entry into the power-wielding elite, political, media and ecclesiastical.
The top 3, absolutely. The first 3, that's exactly how you destroy a country, and that's exactly what's happening here. The last point is accept the new religion. Well, that's what all countries end up doing when new religions, new power structures come along. The old ones die and the new ones are usually embraced by the poor people. The rich people, the elite, are scared of the poor people, so they then pretend to be on board with that as well, and that's how you get that change.
Yeah.
That's why most churches across Europe are built on pagan sites, because when Christianity came along and we're trying to convert the people to Christianity, well, let's appropriate their holy places because they're already used to coming here.
Yeah.
So we'll build our church here. Most of our Christian holidays, lots of them have pagan origins. Christmas is one of them. That's the winter solstice. So you can replace a culture like that, but you need the elites.
The final bit was make acceptance of the new ideology mandatory for entry into the power-wielding elite, political.
Yeah.
We have that at the moment. The political parties, the media and the church all support this crap that we're going to moment. I think what's interesting about this, I was just reflecting on it as we were talking, if I go through these the opposite way, this is how to recover a nation, isn't it? So rather than undermine the religion, celebrate the religion.
Yeah.
Start to celebrate Christianity again. Instead of denying there's anything worth celebrating in history, start to celebrate things in your history. Instead of opening your borders to people of different religions and cultures, close your borders to people of different religions. Instead of introducing selective governing and hammering the lower classes, take away selective governance, which, we've seen a lot of that recently in there, haven't we? And stop hammering the working people. And finally, make acceptance of the new ideology mandatory for entry into the power-wielding elite. Make non-acceptance of the new ideology. So basically, anybody you look for to take into the political arena, media and ecclesiastical, will not have ideological views that embrace it. And if you did all those 5 things the other way around, which I think is starting to happen now, I think it's starting to happen, then you get your country back, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, I feel today, Nick, that things are starting to get slightly better. I don't know why, but I feel there's a general better air in there. And I think when Keir Starmer said that thing about return the sausages, to me that kind of, I think that could be the breaking point, the turning point of this whole crazy situation we're in at the moment.
I started feeling better after the 2020 BLM riots. I thought BLM did us a huge favour by bringing all this to public attention. And ever since then, I can see the fight back happening, and I can see us winning battles, and I'm quite optimistic. And as every year goes by, there's more milestones. We're all talking about immigration now, and hardly anyone calls you a racist anymore now.
Yeah, it's true.
We can now criticise the Q and the T bit. No one calls you homophobic anymore now.
Yeah.
All these words have been overused, and people just don't care anymore now. And those changes are happening, and we can see what happened, even though it didn't go the way it should have went. Southport and those riots and stuff like that. You saw how easy it was for the public to get angry. Yeah. And that's been simmering for a long time.
Well, I think there was a different reaction at the Southport killings, wasn't there? Than there has been.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. And at the next killing, it'll be the same.
Yeah.
I just hope local idiots can just behave themselves a bit more. But there's change. I can feel it in the air. Hence why I wanted Labour to win. I didn't think they'd be this bad this soon. I wanted Labour to win because I thought they're going to complete the job of the Tories, which is get us to rock bottom so everybody rebels. And to be fair, they're still doing it, just doing it a lot quicker than I ever imagined they would do. And you just look online, you speak to people. I've never known a government as despised as this one is. Even the Tories at the height of their scandals and stuff like that, they weren't despised as much as this, were they?
No.
And I think it's not because...
No, I don't think they were. I don't think they were.
And it's not because Labour are doing worse things than them, because they're not. It's because Labour overpromised. Labour told us we're better than them and we're on your side. And it's about time we had a government for the people. And it's about time we put people first, and we're going to sacrifice ourselves to build a better country. And at the time they're saying that, we now find out all the bribes and the backhanders and all the gifts and all the donations.
Grubby,
and it's like, you're not any worse than the Tories. You just like them. And I think they built the people up expecting we were going to get a better class of politician, and then the people have gone, and we've been fooled again, haven't we? And I think that's why there's so much anger in the country.
But I might vote Labour next time, because who else will bring our sausages home?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking I might start a party called the Walls Party. And just see if we can save our sausages.
Save our sausages. SOS, save us. God knows what the memes will be tomorrow for that one.
What an idiot.
What an imbecile. But you know that sausage comment, it did make me laugh, and Barry was actually texting me because I think he sent me the video. Can you believe he was killing himself laughing? But I was actually thinking, how bad a politician is he that he didn't even, because he's in the middle of an important speech. The great politicians know their speeches really well, understand the context or whatever.
Practiced.
How bad can you be to say sausage instead of hostage? Because even if it's on the teleprompter, you would think, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't say sausage in that situation, would you?
Why is the word sausage even in his head? Why is the word
He's
sausage?
Probably thinking about his tea.
He's
probably thinking, I'm going to have a sausage for my tea.
Yeah, they've been donated.
Free sausages tonight. I've no idea why it's even in his head.
Reading off a prompter and we all make mistakes.
Yes.
and we might, we might mispronounce the word, or but it wouldn't be the main word of the sentence. He's talking about the hostages. He knows he's talking about the hostages, but then to turn down and go, the sausages.
It is. I was killing myself laughing.
And the best thing about this is Labour government will continue with these gaffes.
Yes.
And the more they do these gaffes, the more people across the country will laugh at them. And that will be the end of the government.
Yeah.
You can't have a government running the country where everyone just thinks it's fools and you laugh at them, as well as they're being corrupt and immoral.
I can't see how they can carry it. I mean, you said that a few weeks ago. I was thinking, Nick can't be right about that. Surely they were. Because you said Starmer will go first, then the government will go in short order. Looking at the behaviours now, I'm actually thinking, that is a possibility.
Did you see the story over the weekend that Angela Rayner has just hired
yes.
a photographer full-time on
£68,000 a year
to follow her?
Yeah.
And take photos and get them online, because they're trying to develop an image for her.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, God knows.
Because she's waiting for Starmer to fall.
Yeah. But again, the optics on that, they must have known that would come out. They must have realised that, that
everything comes out.
Yeah.
A politician should always go, is this going to damage me if this comes out?
Yeah.
And if it is, well, either don't do it, or then you announce it.
Yeah.
Because everything comes out eventually.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not even like she's paid for a photographer for herself to take pictures. We're paying for that.
Taxpayer.
Yeah.
Taxpayer.
But please, Nick, tell me that she cannot become our Prime Minister. She
thinks she can, and I think her plan is increase my public image, and then when Keir Starmer falls, then there'll be an interim Prime Minister straight away, which will be her, until the Labour Party votes on who they want. So she's thinking, if I increase my image now and look more Prime Minister and look better and have my pictures everywhere like all dictators do.
Yeah.
If I can get that done now, I'm in a better position when he falls. That's why she's doing it. Why else would she?
Yeah, but she's as thick as two short planks. You can barely string a sentence together, Nick. And you all say I'm classist when I say this. It's not classist. This is intelligentist. We want intelligent, capable people in charge of our country, don't we?
We do, but we get what we get.
I would be quite shocked. But anyway.
There was a Rachel Reeve thing today, being interviewed by the BBC.
I think she did go to Oxford.
Right, I don't know.
I think she did. But
and the BBC is saying to her, in your expenses, in your donations, you've put down £1,300. What was that for? She went, I got given some dresses. Right. Well, can I ask you a follow-up question? Yeah. Well, why did you put in the book £1,300 for support?
Oh, really? That's that.
Why didn't you explain it was for dresses? It's because of the way it's looking. And she's like, oh, well, no, it is support because it's going to help me do my job and look better. It was for dresses.
Really? So who was asking that question?
I think it was the BBC.
This is what I'm saying. I think the media have shifted. There's something's changed somewhere.
I don't think they have.
Because I don't think Rachel Reeves ever been asked a hard question before.
No, she hasn't. But most politicians in the shadow cabinet, when they're in opposition, ever get anything. People are only interested when you're in power.
Yeah.
So the BBC have gone after the Tories. But I think once it changes, the press then will go for anybody because it sells magazines, it sells stuff. But that's how corrupt she is. She thought, if I put dresses down, it will look bad.
Yeah.
I'll put support. And she admitted live on air,
it's a lie.
It was for dresses.
It's a lie, isn't it? It's a basic lie, and that's what's really scandalous about it. But just the fact they've taken so much money, so many donations, so many freebies, and they were doing this when they weren't in power, by the way. That's the scary thing.
But all of them were. Every politician in the House of Commons was doing it and has been doing it for decades and decades and decades.
Were the Tories doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think so? Well, how come we never heard that before then?
Because the Tories never said we're whiter than white and we're moral and we're fighting for the poor. It's because
it's the hypocrisy.
It's the hypocrisy. That's why this is a story. The Tories, some of the MPs keep then talking about what the Tories have done, and it's like, well, the Tories, it sounds a lot worse. But they never said they were moral.
Yeah,
we all knew they were scammers. We all knew.
Yeah.
You said you weren't.
Yeah.
It's the hypocrisy that's getting you now.
Yeah. It is interesting, isn't it? And I think with what we're seeing now, that there is a chance that something's going to happen here, because it just seems to be getting worse for them. Basically,
anything can happen. We've got David Lammy, who's a fool. Maybe something international will happen. Well, here's a good example. Trump wins the election.
Yeah.
And Trump says, I don't deal with Lammy. No trade deals, none of this, none of that. I don't even come to you, kid. No, I don't. Because you got Lammy there, who's insulted me many times.
Yeah, he has.
So then what does Keir Starmer...
Sadiq Khan.
Yeah, but you can't get rid of Sadiq Khan. But Keir Starmer will then have an option. Do I need America for jobs, for this, for that? Or do I get rid of a Lammy? That could bring down the government. He gets rid of Lammy, then all his MPs turn on him. You're just a Trump puppet now, aren't you? Americans tell you what to do. There could be, an invasion somewhere, a war somewhere. There's all sorts of things that could happen to bring down this government.
Well, the unions now apparently are up in arms about this winter fuel thing.
Of course they are.
So that's big news at the conference at the moment, because all the union officials are saying we want this thing repealed.
They're only saying that because that's a branch to beat Labour with until they get their pay rises.
Right.
That's what that's about. The nurses' union has just refused
They just
the
turned down their
5.5%.
Surprise.
Yeah, because they've just seen everyone else. They're in double figures.
Yeah.
And they accepted that. They accepted it a month ago.
But then again, has nobody, Nick, advised?
I know.
When they gave the pay rises to, who did they give to first? The tube train drivers.
Yeah.
And then
doctors.
With no conditions at all.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that nobody said to them, you need to be careful about doing this or how you do it. They were given no advice.
Because everybody else is going to come now for a big pay rise. Yeah. Everybody else will.
So did none of the civil servants say that to Starmer, whoever negotiated it?
You would think, I'm 99.999%, they must have done.
They must have done, mustn't they?
It's there. But forget they didn't. He's the Prime Minister. How stupid can you be to not go, I'm going to give this. And it's okay to give that if that's what he wants, but knowing I'm going to also have to give the nurses 12% as well, and then council workers are going to want 12%, and the army is going to want 12%, and unless he's prepared to give everybody 12% pay rises, then it's a mistake.
But this may go back to his childhood, because his dad was, as we know, a toolmaker, but a communist, and his dad will have had him sitting on his knee.
Yeah.
And he said, did you enjoy your sausages for your tea, love?
Oh yeah, Dad. My sausages.
Sausage is lovely.
I dream about sausages sometimes. I'm always scared that when I'm in class reading, I might say the word sausage.
So he said, did you enjoy your sausages, son? Yes. And then there's something on the news, and he said, listen, son, remember, when the workers, they deserve more pay, and they should be given that pay without any qualifications. And if you're in a position, son, to give the workers pay, just give them it with no conditions, and everything will work out. Yeah. I think that's been indoctrinated in him since he was a young little communist sitting on his.
I'm sure it is, and
so I think he's thought, oh yeah, they'll say, oh thanks very much, that's fantastic. At last, somebody recognising our worth. We'll take this pay rise and we'll go away and we'll be happy.
Yeah, well, that's quite an honourable thing to do if that's your thought process. But you also then realise other people will come a knocking. Now, this hasn't happened yet, which I'm surprised. If you had to guess the sex of most doctors in this country, what would you say they were?
That's an interesting question. I would say now mainly women.
Doctors?
Doctors, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more women doctors.
I'm sure there is, but I
You're very healthy, you never go to the doctors.
No,
whenever you go and see a doctor now, it tends to be a woman.
Oh, right.
Sorry, go on, but what?
I would have said male.
Yeah, go on.
And then I would ask you, and what's the sex of most nurses?
Female.
So how he's not been targeted by, male doctors get 12%, but female nurses get 5.5%. I'm surprised it's not been attacked
I see, on
that line, on the sexist line.
Yeah. I think the sexist bit is you thinking most doctors are male. I think there's probably an even mix. But I'm sure our viewers will let us know.
I'm going to Google it in a minute. I'm going to Google it.
I think the thing that Starmer has missed of all this, you give all these people pay rises at this level, the price of sausages will go up. It's got to happen, hasn't it?
And if all those train drivers and doctors use their pay rises to buy sausages, there'll be shortages. And then there'll be black market opportunities to sell. Got some Cumberland there. Do you want some Cumberland?
On that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, of the sausage shortages shortly coming, we'll end this edition of The Mayor and I. Nick Buckley.
Thank you. This has been less political and more a two-man comedy show. Did you enjoy that video? I think you did. Come on now, hit that bell, subscribe, comment. Let's build this channel. I need more followers. I need more subscribers. Be part of the journey. See you soon.